right. Good morning. Good morning. This is not a. This is more like a rant. Okay. This is kind of me just responding to a conversation that I had yesterday. A couple of conversations that I had yesterday about writing, particularly in this post-Black Panther area, and what that means for Black writers or writers of Black stories, Black sci-fi writers, which, you know, is debatable what is a Black sci-fi story or a Black story in general. Is it a story with Black characters? Is it a story of written by Black people, a Black person? Is it a story with Black actors, again having to be about a Black person? So all of those things, this is sort of a conversation for those that subject area. It came about talking about how do you write Blackness, or how do you write a story that appeals to Black people? How important is it to write a story that appeals to Black people? I was talking about Black Panther comic book and the Black Panther movie, and even throwing in the Luke Cage television show and the Luke Cage comic book. What I personally feel is that it's kind of agreed that the Black Panther comic book, although it initially sold well, the first issue with Ta-Nehisi Coates, is that as the series went on, people did not like it as much, especially not as much as they liked Luke Cage TV show or the Black Panther movie. And part of what I feel where it went wrong was in a central element, in a central area of confusion for Black writers and writers of Black stories, writers of Black sci-fi. All of that is who do you appeal to? You know, do you write a story that is Black story that appeals to the mainstream, or do you write a story of Black people that appeal to the Black culture, you know, Black people? And sometimes before Black Panther, we didn't know what we needed to do. You know, we didn't know, should we write a story that is like urban fiction, that's spook who sat by the door? Because many times that's what's on our chest. Sometimes we feel we gotta be hardcore to appeal to our community. Also, sci-fi, I'll say this loosely, is ideological porn. Okay, it's where you want to throw your ideology out. It's sometimes it's not necessarily a revenge thing, but it's a fantasy of what you would like to do that you can't do in real life. So if you are obsessed with Black oppression, then you want to manifest Black liberation in your story. Now, doing that, you sometimes feel that I'm writing a story that white people will either be offended by or at least not really be interested in. I think also publishers are concerned with their balancing that. You know, how do I get this Black writer, this Black film that will appeal to both? That's why comedy does so well, because comedy is something that even if you say, hey, F the white man, you know, people will still laugh at it because they'll say, oh, he was just joking. So no matter how revolutionary you get, unless you like Paul Mooney and people can't really cross the line, or the line is get blurred, comedians can say everything. Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle, anything and everything, except maybe John Lasseter, who joked about Donald Trump. But we're not going to get into that. But comedy works. Horror sort of works, you know what I'm saying? But when you start getting into science fiction, it becomes really tricky because people take the most highest of fantasy as, what are you trying to say? So I think what happened with Black Panther, with Ta-Nehisi in the comic book, was that his ideology is mostly what he respects. And there's nothing wrong with that. He believes what he believes, and he doesn't really respect other things. Like, he's not a Ben Carson. He's definitely out for his people, but he's not one that would give any respect to Minister Farrakhan or this quote-unquote Hotep community. Now, my problem with that is I don't think that vibed or gelled well with writing a character, Black Panther, who is a Garveyite, theologically named after character. It is named in some respect to the Black Panthers, okay? It is not named after them, but in some respect, it had that mentality. Next, Wakanda is a very complicated place to write about because they come off worse and more, it's not necessarily Coon City, and I don't want to be credited with saying that, but it is almost like an elitist city by happenstance. I mean, they found the vibranium crash there. They didn't know what to do with it. So anyway, they developed it and isolated themselves. That's fine. But now, how do you deal with why did you isolate yourself? What did you do about this isolation? All of these Black Panther Party questions. These are the questions that the Black Panther Party would ask of Wakanda. You understand? Yo, they would be like, yo, what's the deal? That's why Lupita's character broke that and said, yo, I got to save these girls that are being sex trafficked. This is enough is enough. We got the technology to deal with it. Now, Tahashi, he doesn't have any respect for the Pan-Africanism, at least I believe. You know, I think he thinks that that's a stupid philosophy. I think he thinks many of the values of the Hotep conscious revolutionary community are not smart. And I think he feels a lot of the things that he thinks are smart. I don't think he really respects Africa and traditional African culture. Again, those are things that Garveyites, Pan-Africanists, people like Stokely Carmichael, who became Kwame Ture, who really represented the next growth of the Black Panther Party. To me, I mean, I like H. Rap Brown, Huey P., all of those strong members, but I think they became Africanists or they would have become Africanists like Kwame Ture had the organization continued to grow. But I think because of their love for Africa, and their traditional love for Africa, how the Hoteps or the conscious community see it, the Tahashis feel that they are not, and I know I'm rambling, please rewind it if I'm not making sense, but the conscious community has a homophobic view of homosexuality if you listen to the Tahashi community. And how can I describe them? I said new conscious, how about that? Young intellectuals, I don't know, and I don't know, I'm going to lump them together, but I don't think they're all exactly the same. These are the Angela Rye, these are Mark Lamont Hills, these are the Torres, maybe even Melissa Harris Perry, and Coates, Tahashi Coates, falls right in line with, the founders of the Black Lives Matter movement. So this is their community. But in this generation, you still have Dr. Umar, you have Sarnetta, you have, and he's not even really in that age group, but he's in that generation. He's in this generation because he's now conscious now. Got Dr. Reggie. These are probably people they would consider Hoteps, right? But you also have Tariq Nasheed, okay? So all these people, Bryce, Watkins, Killer Mike, okay? So then this is in their generation. Now, separate from the Dr. Umars and the Tariqs and the other ones that they would call Hoteps, I say the revolutionary or the conscious community, they feel that, homosexuality is a part of the future and it should be accepted. And not only that, they feel that Africa, who bans, many African countries who ban homosexuality, should not ban homosexuality. And so that's why I think he included the Dora protectors of Black Panther in the comic book as a lesbian group. Now, I think the problem with that is twofold. I don't necessarily have a problem. I actually think, and I think Dr. Umar might agree, that we do have to have a conversation about homosexuality. Okay, we need to find out what's, we just need everything, causes, and how do we live from here. We need to move on. And so that needs to happen. But I don't think the way Tahashi tried to do it was the best way, because it was like changing Superman to become black, right? That's crazy. So you have the Dora, which are patterned after the Dahomey women, which are a real group of warrior women. And people, the colors, their unity, but the Dahomey women were heterosexual. There wasn't even any reports of their homosexual tolerance. So they might have been as quote unquote anti-homosexuality as African nations, because I don't want to call it homophobia. It's just anti-homosexuality. Nobody's scared of homosexuality. They're just against it. So now, moving past that, what does that mean for a black writer? What does Black Panther mean now? Because what happened was Tahashi's book became controversial, and many may argue that it failed. I will say it failed. I wouldn't have wanted to be the one that published that, because I think in light of the movie, I think the comic book could have done incredibly well. I think the same thing with Luke Cage. I don't think Luke Cage, and I like to say Luke Cage comic book is like light skin. I don't think it is as urban as the Luke Cage Netflix series. I don't think Black Panther is as appealing to black people as the movie Black Panther, the Black Panther comic book. I don't think it is as appealing to black people as the Black Panther movie is and was. And I think the Killmonger being a Black Panther type of person, or a conscious person, or a Hotep, or whatever, a revolutionary, a Pan-Africanist, black nationalist, a Garveyite, Nation of Islam, Elijah Muhammad follower, all those people that I think Killmonger respects, I think are people that Tahashi doesn't respect. And I don't think he would have written a Killmonger. I don't even think he included Killmonger in his story. His story was just about destroying Wakanda and building Wakanda back up into a paradise where homosexuality and feminism are welcomed. And I think that is interesting, but I don't think he should have changed that from what traditional Africa was or is. And I think he should have done like Samuel Delany, maybe write a sci-fi story where you go to a planet that's like that, or introduce a different group of women into Wakanda that are gay, instead of trying to change somebody that's gay. So that's my commentary, and I'm really over time. I didn't get to my point, but I did, hopefully say some things that were of interest. Maybe I'll do a part 2 tomorrow. But I really think, Black Panther is a game changer. I think just as white kids all across America are into the most gangsterous rap, as Black Panther did so well, I think mainstream viewers, Chinese, India, Arab, Latino, Hispanic, and white will respect a story of black people that is true to black people. And I think that's why people like Black Panther the movie, is that it's true in its portrayal of Africa and the mentality of African Americans. So not that Tahashi isn't, it's just that he presented a one-dimensional, two sides of one viewpoint, and it wasn't a multiple viewpoints story. And I think black people are not one-dimensional. We have, the elitists, we have the Cosby community, we've got the conscious community, we got the religious community, we got a whole lot of factors, the cool hip-hop community, and I don't think he included all of that. And I think, Luke Cage also, they included the hip-hop community. That's my community. You know what I'm saying? He got KRS-One in season 2. Come on. My son was like, enough said. He knew I was going to watch it just because of that. It was like, Rakim, KRS. I said, walk away. I don't need nobody else. It's done. So, again, I don't think Takashi and black writers, I don't think we have to limit ourselves. I can go into fantasy books and Kate Jameson, David Anthony Durham. I'll probably talk about the publishing world and their dilemma when it comes to black characters and black stories. I'll do that tomorrow. All right, thank you for listening.